Leyla Yunus, a prominent human rights activist, and her husband Arif had their passports confiscated and were detained from leaving the country at the Baku airport in Azerbaijan on April 28 of this year. 3 months later, on July 30, the Yunuses were arrested. Leyla was placed under a 3-month pre-trial detention while her husband was placed under house arrest. By August 5, her husband received the same sentence. Yunus is best known for her critiques against the government and attempts in creating discourse to bridge ties between Azeris and Armenians over Nagorno-Karabakh. The New York Times writes, Ms. Yunus embarrassed the government, which currently holds the rotating chairmanship of the Council of Europe's Committee of Ministers, by accusing it of jailing about 140 people for political reasons and of exploiting the country's vast oil wealth through corruption. As of May 2014, Azerbaijan holds the chairmanship of the Council of Europe, the continent's leading human rights organization. Following Yunus's arrest, activists Rasul Jafarov and Intigam Aliyev have been detained and arrested, while 21 non-governmental organizations have been placed under prosecution. All have been charged with tax offenses. Open Democracy asks, how dangerous were those activists for Ilham Aliyev? How much must he fear them in order to take such drastic steps? It only confirms how efficient they were in their work. They go on to call on the West to step up. The West has decided to invite Azerbaijan into the House of European Ideas. Then it is our moral duty to defend them when they are in trouble. BBC heads their article with a side-by-side photograph of the 4 prisoners, and although the article is titled Azerbaijan Activists Jailed Amid Crackdown Fears, it maintains an unbiased stance, presenting arguments from both sides. Human Rights Watch argues to suspend Azerbaijan's membership in the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, a global coalition of governments, companies, and civil societies working together to improve openness and accountable management of revenues from natural resources. Despite being a founding member of the organization, they maintain that a free and active civil society is fundamental to a country's participation. Radio Free Europe reports that the UN has condemned Azerbaijan and is calling on them to stop the criminalization of rights activists, and those who have been detained must be immediately freed. Many scholars believe that President Aliyev has taken advantage of international eyes focused on the Ukraine crisis and Gaza conflict, but Washington Post writes, Mr. Aliyev may think he is being clever by silencing critics while a crisis in Ukraine has distracted world attention, but that's what is different from Soviet times. It is no longer possible to hide such uncivilized behavior. The Guardian writes that many believe the detainment of political activists is an attempt to silence campaigners a year before the European Games are set to take place in Baku. The International Business Times reports that the chief operating officer of the Baku 2015 European Games, Simon Clegg, argues that it is not the organizers' job to speak against human rights violations in Baku, and that political issues need to be directed towards politicians. IBT also reveals via WikiLeaks that American officials compare Aliyev to a mafia boss. On August 7, the Council of Europe released a statement writing, by stifling dissent, Azerbaijan is failing to comply with its international obligations, which require safeguarding freedom of expression, assembly, and association. It is necessary that Azerbaijan reverse the situation. They have asserted to continue monitoring this matter. On the 24th of June, President Aliyev, in his address to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe in Strasbourg, maintained that all the fundamental freedoms are provided in Azerbaijan and that there are no political prisoners in Azerbaijan. How will these new implications under the watchful eye of international media affect Azerbaijan's place in the Council of Europe? Only time will tell.